Hey, Spyro Shuck here to talk about episode 4, The 16mm Shrine, written by Rod Serling and starring Ida Lupino. This episode starts out rolling down like a rolling film and beginning on a small movie screen in a private theater. Being watched is a scene from an old movie from the 30s, and the one watching this private showing is one Barbara Trenton, who is also the starring actress in the scene and in the film. So we come to find out that Barbara is an aging actress who cannot move on from the past. So, as she is watching and reminiscing, her agent and old friend walks in and tells her that he has a part for her. And he also, being an old friend and watching her closely, he gently encourages her to get out and move on, to see the beauty of the new and to move on with her career. So, obviously she blows this off, but she comes with him to the film studio to speak with the producer. And the producer offers her a role as a mother. Now, Barbara, she still sees herself as a young actress in her mid-20s, which is actually very common with women in not being able to move on with their age and accept their age, especially with actresses. So she yells at the producer, throws the partner in his face, and storms out. And the producer is very kind about it, but she just takes it very hostile. And even the manager, feeling very bad for his old friend and client, Barbara. He also yells at the producer, stating, "When you're over the hill and down and out, remind me to kick you while you're down." Now, I never found that the producer was very harsh. I mean, this is very common. A lot of actors and actresses, they start as handsome, leading young actors. And, as they get older, their parts change to, fit their age. And, that's inevitable. And again, a lot of actors and actresses have trouble with this. But this producer here, I mean, usually the film producers are very, cutthroat and blunt. But I found him to be, pretty gentle about it. But I digress. So Barbara storms out, and in denial and anger of her aging and the fact that technically she is over the hill as an actress, she blocks it out. She says it didn't happen, the meeting didn't happen, all this doesn't exist. The only thing that exists is what I want to exist in my mind. So her agent gently again comforts her, but he gets very angry at her because she's not moving on. She's regressing back into her mind. So her agent leaves, and you just see on Barbara's face that she is losing her mind. She is, again, like I said, regressing into her mind. And so we find out at a later time that Barbara, the past, I'm guessing a few weeks, has just locked herself in her private theater, and she is just watching and reminiscing and wishing that she could desperately be in this time period as well as these films. And so we also find out, as a bit of foreshadowing, that the maid, when the agent comes back to visit Barbara, the maid tells the agent that she could swear that she saw the older Barbara in the films, that she actually supernaturally appeared in the films that she so desperately wants to go back to. So he blows that off and he goes to visit her and tells her that she has a visitor, an old friend. And she just blows him off and tells him, I don't want to be disturbed. And he just lightly, as she slams the door in his face, lightly exclaims, it's Mr. Landon, who, once she hears that, she flies open the door. This particular actor, she was actually watching the scene that she acted with him in a movie from the 30s during this time. So it's like a little connection here. And her thinking about this, she's overjoyed, and she can't wait to meet her old acting buddy and leading man. So eventually, Mr. Landon comes to Barbara's house, and he's an older man, maybe about 60, and she doesn't like this. The fact that she can't move on with time, the idea that he, the way she still thinks of him as this young, vibrant man. She and seeing him now as the way he is now, an older man. She just can't take it. She yells that both of them get out of her house, and this is actually a great scene as well. At least I personally. Mr. Landon comes up to her, holds her like he did, when he was a young man, and says, it was great seeing you, Barbara. And again, she just blows it off. But he sadly walks away, seeing the state that she is in, and he is just saddened by it. So she runs into her personal theater, locks herself in there, and just continues watching the film with young Mr. Landon. And she just wishes and desperately wishes that she could be in these films and in this time again. So then the scene switches to the maid coming in to give Barbara her daily meal. And she looks at the screen. Well, first she looks in the room, sees that Barbara is nowhere to be found. And then she looks at the screen and she screams. She drops the plate and just screams. And the scene then changes to she must have called her Barbara's agent and friend and told him the whole scenario. And obviously he didn't believe it. She told him that once again she's seen older Barbara in the films. And now that Barbara is not even in the theater, she's just alarmed and flabbergasted. And again, the agent obviously doesn't believe, that something supernatural has happened. But he obviously looks into it. He sits at the chair, the viewing chair, and turns on the projector, and he sees that it is indeed the older Barbara in the film. Now, it's a new film where all her young leading actors are in her house, sort of like a party, and they just watch her come down the stairs. It's actually a beautiful scene, a beautiful representation of just her ultimate wish. And as her agent and friend sees this, instead of being surprised, even though he is, he desperately calls out to her, hoping that she would either stay with him or that he could come with her. For, no one really wants to age, I mean, it's inevitable, and we must accept it. But you feel the longing that this man also has to be with Barbara and to also be young again. But to finish this beautiful scene, in the film, she walks right to the camera, looks out like she's about to speak to him through the film, but she blows him a kiss, drops her, I don't know what it's called. It's like a scarf, and she walks out into her outdoors living area with all the young actors that she so loved and longed to be with once again. So the film ends, and the agent is just greatly saddened. And he gets up, he walks out of the personal theater. In the mirror, a few things to note in this scene. In the mirror behind him as he's walking out, you can see that the outdoor swimming area door is open, just like the film. And as he walks out, now he does notice this. It's very subtle, but he does notice. And he walks out into the hallway, and he sees the scarf on the ground. And he just thinks for a second, and he smiles, because he knows she got her wish, that because she couldn't move on with the times, at least she got to be happy somewhere else. And he even says this, he says, to wishes that come true. So it's a beautiful ending to the episode. But so to recap on the episode and to reflect on it, I've never been a big fan of this episode, mainly due to finding it bland and out of date. I mean, I do love older movies. They were beautifully made, 30s, 40s, 50s. But in this day and age, for a modern viewer, it just be, the themes are not out of date, but the way it is done involving the old films, and the way Rod Serling wrote it, though he wrote it, in his typical well-written fashion, it's just sort of an out-of-date episode. But nevertheless, it's still well-written, well-acted. Directing is kind of bland, but that's typical. It's typical TV directing for the time. So overall, I give the episode a 5 out of 10. It's not bad. I wouldn't call it a great episode, but it's decent and definitely worth a watch. So, yeah. So thank you for listening, as always. I hope you've been enjoying the web series. And stay tuned for many, many more. I will continue with my review and analysis of every Twilight Zone episode from the 1959 series. And also many other great goodies and reviews to come. So I hope you stay tuned, and thanks for watching.